Are you ready?
Hey, New Yorkers, this is Hyan. Get excited because the Renaissance Woman is here on a shot of wrestling. And we're going to talk and we're going to get to know me a little bit more. New York, I'll see you September 28th at Battle Club Pro.
Bring some damn shot, boy. Is that the message you got? We about to go live. Are you ready to rock? So take a shot, boy. Is that the message you got? From the fans to the fans, let me hear the crowd pop. So take a shot, boy. Is that the message you got? We about to go live. Are you ready to rock? So take a shot, boy. Is that the message you got? From the fans to the fans, let me hear the crowd pop. So take a shot. Oh yeah, so take a shot. Oh, so take a shot. Oh, so take a shot.
Family, welcome to another exciting edition of A Shot of Wrestling, The Interviews. If you've not done so already, follow us on all forms of social media at A Shot of Wrestling on Facebook and Instagram, and Shot of Wrestling, no A, on Twitter. You can also contact us via email at inbox@ashotofwrestling.com or dial it up 619-343-3005 and leave your comments on A Shot of Wrestling hotline. Now, if you're ready and willing, I'm able. And like we've said it time and time again, wrestling brings us together, and today is no different. Today, we are joined by Reality of Wrestling two-time Diamonds champion and the Renaissance woman, Hyan. Welcome to A Shot of Wrestling.
Hello.
It is so nice to have you on the show. Many people may be familiar with your name because in 2016 you faced Nia Jax when she was coming into her mainstream push in the WWE.
That's true. That was a crazy experience, but I'm definitely grateful for it.
I could only imagine that that's got to be one of your top moments. Can you name two other moments that you've been really proud of in your short career?
That first one comes to mind is when I won the Reality of Wrestling Diamonds Championship for the first time at the very first Ladies Night Out. Me and Kylie were the main event, and I won it from Kylie. And the match was really, really good. And then afterwards, like, Booker was just like, "I'm so proud of you guys," and we both were like crying because
Oh, wow.
Booker does not give her compliments willy nilly. Like, you definitely have to earn them. So it meant a lot hearing that from him. And then probably my second one was my last match at Reality of Wrestling before I went to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
We did, me and AQA wrestled in a steel cage match. It was the first time the women have ever made eventually the Reality of Wrestling show, and it was the first ever Reality of Wrestling cage match. And there was a 450 in that match. There was a shooting star press. And I think now this match has like 8 million views on YouTube.
Wow.
And that was one of my favorite matches of this year for sure.
Is that a match that you and your opponent were really like going over right before it started, or did a lot of the things just happen organically in the ring?
Both. Oh, some of the stuff we kind of just happened organically, but some of it we obviously did discuss. But yeah, it was one of those things where it was like, I was so nervous. I was so nervous that I was like pacing backstage. And it was so obvious that one of the other wrestlers, his name is Ruthless Ryan Davidson, he like pulled me aside and he was just like, "It's going to be okay. Like, you'll be fine." And I just thought it was so funny because Ryan doesn't, like, he's a sweet guy. But for him to just go out of his way to like tell me to like, "Oh, be okay," I'm like, dang, I must have looked so nervous.
But it also sounds like you have a good support system there. Like, you guys are all family where you're able to notice that in someone else that you work with and know exactly what they need at that time to kind of like come to you and say, "Hey, it's going to be cool. Don't worry about it," you know?
Yeah.
Now, a lot of WWE, WWF superstars who start their own training school are not as involved as Booker is. From my understanding, he's like really in the mix. Like, he's really training you guys. He's very frequently in that space. Do you feel any pressure with someone of his caliber, a Hall of Famer, world champion, to not just be learning from, but be in his presence and get his knowledge?
I did at first, but I've been there for 5 years, so I know Booker pretty well at this point. So he doesn't intimidate me like he did before. And once you get to know him, he's just a human being like all of us. And he does a really good job of like giving you critique for like the level that you're at. So he's not going to just tell you suck or something like that. He knows like what level you're at, and he'll base his critiques on that. So, if you're like a newer person and you screw something up, he's not gonna rip into you. He'll look at you like, okay, you're newer, so you're still trying to get it, type of thing. So that's always like really nice to have with him.
Wow. And now, is there anything in that wrestling school that you find might be different, might be unique than any other wrestling school that you may have toured or you have met people that are part of?
I personally think that we have the best wrestling school out there. Not just because like of Booker, like it's awesome that he's there and we get film study with him and he's always available anytime you need him. But I think it's because like we have such a positive like culture there, and that like everyone wants to train, everyone wants to do better. No one comes in with like a bad attitude. And if you did come in with a bad attitude, like it'd get checked pretty quickly, to be honest. But yeah, everyone is just so positive. Everyone wants to learn. And it really is like a family there. And I always tell people who've never been to reality of wrestling before, like when you go to a show and you go backstage, you see that every single person is at the monitor watching the show.
Oh, that's cool.
And if someone has a good match, like when they come back through the curtain, people will stand up and clap for you. Like it's a really, really positive environment, and like I love it there.
Now, as a fan, what's the style of wrestling that speaks to you? What is your flavor of ice cream?
I really like hard-hitting wrestling. Like I like more of a brawler type, and I can enjoy like the athleticism that comes with like aerial type of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like New Japan and what they do, because everything that they do kind of fits more of what I like to see personally.
Well, that's a great transition to one of the things I do want to discuss, your tour in Japan. Many people in the States really make that a goal of theirs. It's they want to go to Japan. They want to learn. They want to experience the crowd there. How did that opportunity come to you?
So I had known about Marvelous, which is the company that I went with, through Renee Michelle and Nyla Rose. And I knew a couple other girls had gone there too. And then one day, I don't know how it happened, honestly. Like, it was just really, like, I just got lucky. They just randomly hit me up one day because I never sent in an application. I guess they had seen what I'd done. And so I was in talks with them for a couple months before it was kind of, like, finalized. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, like, it kind of really just fell into my lap. And then the opportunity presented itself, so I dropped everything and I went.
Long trip. That's usually the first thing that comes to mind when someone travels to Japan. How was the flight over?
I honestly wasn't that bad.
Really?
Because I sleep a lot. Yeah, I can sleep anywhere, and I'm a very heavy sleeper.
Okay.
So it's like I just pass out, and I just wake up, and I'm there.
Oh, man. I wish I had that, but I don't know. When I'm in the plane, I kind of feel like I'm awake. I don't know what's going to happen. It's a little nerve-wracking for me. I like to be distracted. I like to watch movies sometimes on the plane, you know?
Yeah.
When you got to Japan, it's a whole new, different environment for you. Like, you don't even know the language. Was it hard for you to kind of get your bearings in place, not knowing where to go? Everything was new to you, and communication was probably a challenge as well.
Yeah, it was hard. Google Translate was definitely, like, my best friend. There wasn't another foreigner with Marvelous with me, so it was just me. So that made it kind of hard. But luckily, another wrestler, his name is Ricky Starks. I've known him from Texas. Well, he was there for DDT, and we got there at the same time, and he was there for a month. So he was like my travel buddy. So anytime I wanted to go like sightseeing, I'm like, Ricky, come with me.
What are the sights to see there? Like, I could imagine the Tokyo Dome would be freaking cool, but is there anything else that was like on your list of things you wanted to check out?
Yeah, I went to Akihabara, which is like the tech anime area. Yuano Park has like a bunch of museums that you can go to, and it's really, really cheap. And the zoo is there, and it has like a really beautiful park. Harajuku is kind of like shopping. Shibuya and Shinjuku is more like shopping stuff,
Mm-hmm.
more of like the touristy areas.
Okay.
And then Disney, we have Disney and Disney Sea, which is really cool.
Have you been to
And
Disney
so,
World in the States?
no, the
Oh.
first time I ever went was in Japan.
Oh wow. I was gonna ask to see if you could compare, like, if there was any difference.
Yeah, I haven't been able to go in the States yet, but I went in Japan and that was pretty cool.
As far as like traveling, like, I love to travel. It's like one of the things that doesn't even matter where I go. I could go, we're in New York, I could go to Philly, I could go to Boston. It doesn't matter. I just love the adventure of the trip and the ride. Is there anything along your travels that was surprising to you?
The only thing that was like stressful is that my cell phone plan didn't like, they told me that I did have international and they said that it worked, but it didn't work like my data. So like at some point my little pocket Wi-Fi would die out. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh no. And I'd have to try to find my way back, but there's no data. So I really just had to like wing it and try to get it back. Or sometimes they didn't tell me this, so this one was like super stressful the first time it happened. But the buses stopped running before the trains do.
Oh.
So yeah, I got back to Funabashi, which is like where a dojo was. And so from Funabashi Station, I had to take the bus to the dojo. It was like 15 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I get on the bus, and the bus goes and randomly stops in the middle of nowhere. And I'm just like, okay. And they're like, you have to get out. And I'm like, wait, why?
Oh my God.
And so they're like, yeah, it stopped running. And I was like, oh, okay. So I had to get out. I didn't know where I was. My Wi-Fi wasn't working. I couldn't find my way back on my phone because I didn't have any data. I found this random Japanese person and like tried to explain to them how, like, where do I go? And they're really nice because they like walked with me all the way back to the dojo, and they're like, hey, this is how you go back. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh my
I was
gosh.
so stressed.
I would be terrified.
It was also like, I was also like 2 o'clock in the morning. So I was very like, oh my God.
Wow. Now, the women's revolution, the women's evolution, we've been talking about it for, I feel a few years now, and women's wrestling is not any bigger than it is right now, I feel like. However, in the past year, after the actual evolution you saw in the WWE, I feel like mainstream kind of dropped off a little bit of the women's evolution. However, the independent scene has picked that right back up. Areas like in Houston where you are, like, women's wrestling is a big deal. And I think the reality of wrestling promotion does a great job at spotlighting the women's athleticism and women in professional wrestling, just like Battle Club Pro does for here in our area. They have the icons. And I love the term that they use, icons. And the same thing in reality of wrestling, diamond, something that is not like a name like back in the WWE where they used to call people divas or something that objectified women. What is your feeling about women's wrestling today versus just a few years ago?
It's definitely changed a lot because I remember when I first started training, it was like, you have to wrestle like a girl. And I was like, what does that mean?
Really?
So like, well, you have, yeah, there's like, well, you have to like slap and like pull hair. And I was like, well, I don't want to do that. Like in my head, I was like, I don't want to do that. It sounds dumb. And just like from that to now, like going, even having matches with guys and keeping up with the guys. And like I wrestled my trainer, Gino, and we had the match, and I got really emotional afterwards because I had been wanting to wrestle him forever, and I never thought I would get a chance to. And we had a really good match, and he was just like, you're better than like a lot of the guys that I've wrestled, right? And I was
wow.
like, what? And that was just like insane to me.
Is it
So,
is it different when
like,
you're in a ring with the guy? Is there outside of just like, probably, are you prepping yourself differently, or are you just treating them as like another opponent?
I think you still have to keep in mind that they are a guy and that, you can't just go up and just body slam them willy-nilly if they're, way bigger than you. I think that needs to be taken into account for when you wrestle a guy.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's a lot of fun in that, for the most part, I would say guys tend to be more advanced in wrestling overall than women, just because guys do it longer for the most part, and they have different kinds of athleticism that they can do versus like what a girl can do. That changes things, and to me, it gives it a different dynamic. So to me, it makes it fun because it's something different that I'm not used to.
Is there a move that you feel that a guy could do that you could do better?
A 450.
I could imagine. I mean, women tend to theoretically more flexible, right? They're lighter. They can get more air.
Sometimes I think that girls get scared, so they don't want to try certain moves because, I mean, it's scary, but I'm just kind of like, if a guy can do it, I can do it too.
It is very scary. It sounds like, in your style of wrestling also, you do a lot of things out of your comfort zone. And I feel like I've heard that advice to us and to other wrestlers, step outside of your comfort zone and make yourself as most comfortable as you can, because it only is going to push you to be better. Is there any advice that you've gotten that you still hold on to this day that's really helped you along in your career?
To always be willing to learn. I think sometimes people get comfortable in where they at, or they feel like they kind of know it all, so they don't try maybe or train as much as they need to. But I think it's always important to know that you can always learn and always get better, and that you should always try to learn and always get better. Like it never stops.
That's some good life advice also. No matter, even if you're not a wrestler, or even for those who are listening, just a life lesson, whether you're at work and you're finding it very routine, it's the same thing over and over. If you open up your mind to be willing to learn, I think that's a very cool way to approach life. Who gave you that advice?
Booker.
Oh, well, the man should know.
He's like, you're never going to learn it all. He's like, you're never going to learn it all. He's like, I'm still learning now.
Well, it goes back to the motto. It's the same way we started the show. We said wrestling brings us together. Now, I'm sure you're happy that wrestling has brought in you a mentor like Booker T. But is there anybody else that you consider friends or mentors in the wrestling business that you're happy that wrestling brought to you?
I would say Mercedes Martinez, because I did a few of the Rise seminars with her, and I remember I just talked to her one-on-one, and I would just kind of tell her what my thought process was on things in wrestling, and she helped me a lot. There's what people always say, wrestling will click for you at one point,
Okay.
It clicks for different people at different times. And for me, it clicked when I started going to the Rice seminars and talking to her a lot. And also when I got to wrestle her too at the ladies night out show that we just did, I always learn so much when I'm around her.
Interesting.
Even though I'm not around her too often, when I am around her, it's there's always something to learn. And I'm just always appreciative that she takes the time to listen and give advice, and she doesn't have to do that all the time.
Well, we have a special love for Mercedes. She's been on our show before, and we just had a great conversation. She's so down to earth, and there's so many cool things.
She is.
There's so many cool conversations. There's so many cool things. She's a huge Batman fan, first of all, and when we got to talk about tattoos for a bit, I mean, she's just so cool. So is that something that you and her kind of bonded over, maybe tattoos and anime or fictional characters like that?
Mostly I would say wrestling, because I'm just always picking her brain. And I'm always what do you think about this? Or how can I do this better? Can you please watch my match? So I think it's more of a student teacher type relationship. Okay. Because I'm just please share your knowledge with me, please.
Well, maybe you could share with us those stories. Tattoos, do you have any? Because I got a few on me, and I always like to think of tattoos as kind of like a timeline of your life. Do you have any tattoos?
I have 3. Or no, I have 2. I have 2.
What are those?
My first one I got the day of my college graduation, and it's tattoos from Legend of Zelda. Big Zelda fan.
Love Zelda. Some people might hate on me because, it's not probably the best Zelda game, but I personally like the Ocarina of Time on,
That's the best
on
one.
N64. I mean, I've talked to people and they're like, "No, that's not the best one." To me, it was literally like I could just like roam the world for hours on that game. It was
That's my
amazing.
favorite one.
Yeah? Awesome.
Yeah.
What's your other tattoo of?
Yep. I had a rabbit
Hmm.
because when I was little, my uncle, well, I got it from my uncle and my grandfather. Growing up, they always called me the little bunny rabbit in Spanish
Uh-huh.
because when I was little, I didn't know how to say bunny rabbit in Spanish, and they always thought it was really funny that I couldn't say it. So
Could
that's
you
what they
could
always
you say it
called
now?
me. Yes, now I can say it now. It's conejo, but back
Okay.
then I would say enenejo. So that's what they called me, like, growing up. And then they passed away, like, my tío Juan passed away when I was 17.
Oh wow.
And my grandpa passed away when I was 19. So I
Hmm.
got it for them.
Yeah, you as any Spanish family, I'm sure did you come from a big family?
Yeah, I mostly grew up with my mom's side of the family, and they're Mexican. My mom has 9 brothers and sisters total. Her included, it's 9
Uh-huh.
children. So I have 8 uncles and aunts, 4 uncles and 4 aunts. And so I have a bunch of cousins.
Yeah, for real. The same thing. I'm Ecuadorian, but I feel like something was going on back in the day where that's literally all they were doing. It's all just having babies. Because my dad is
Yep.
one of 13. My mom is one of 8. And that's a big family.
Okay. I haven't gotten beat yet.
I like to imagine myself a bit like an aurora borealis,
That was Alexa, by the way. I just wired
Oh,
my home to Alexa.
a surge of charged multicolored photons dancing through the atmosphere.
that's so funny. One time I was at my friend's house and he had an Alexa. I didn't know it though, and I was like reading a meme out loud, and it said like Alexa blah blah blah, and they just started talking, and I freaked out. I was like, "What the hell was that?" And I was
Uh,
like, "He's like, oh, I have an Alexa." I was like, "Oh, okay, that was really creepy."
I gotta say, I am a little bit creeped out. This is the first time she's ever come to life during one of my conversations. I think it's really cool when she turns on the lights and turns on my TV. But I feel like Big Brother is watching us right now. But we were,
Super creepy.
yeah. Um, Technology nowadays is super important. This is a good segue. And I feel the internet is super important. It's something that independent wrestlers have really used to get their name out there with social media and, YouTube, Instagram. Are these some of the things that you as a professional wrestler, devote time to in making sure your stuff gets out there?
Yeah, like it's almost like a chore sometimes because everyone's like, you have to post every day, you have to do this, you have to do that, and I'm just really lazy with it sometimes. Or I know like the guys that I train with at my school, they're like, oh, I hate social media, I hate having to do it, but it's kind of like, hey man, we have to do it. Like you have to play the game, so it's like, yeah, having to wake up and be like, okay, like I need to post this around this certain time so enough people see it. It's yeah, it can be a little bit annoying sometimes, but I mean, it's kind of part of the job at this point. And I think social media has like facilitated a lot of insecurities with people
Mm.
because you see other people and you're like, oh, their life must be great because of X, Y, and Z. But really, it's just they're putting out their best self on. Like I just know, like myself growing up, I was like kind of an insecure kid. So
Mm.
I can't imagine what these kids who are like in middle school who are just insecure in general because they're 13, 14 years old, and that's just what you are at that age. You're still trying to figure yourself out. And to have that going on and have social media that kind of compounds all that, it makes it hard. I think so.
I know. I think so too. Absolutely. You mentioned earlier you come from a big family, a big Mexican family, and wrestling, lucha libre, is big in Mexico. What does your family think about you pursuing a career as a professional wrestler?
My family thinks it's cool. My cousins they were not surprised at all when I decided to do it because they're like, yeah, like you've been talking about this forever, so totally makes sense. And my aunts too, my aunts and my uncles. But my mom, she likes wrestling. Like she thinks it's cool, and she's a big wrestling fan as well. Like my mom has pictures with like Eddie and Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair and stuff.
Really?
My mom is a real fan, yeah.
Yeah.
But she gets insanely scared because she does not want me to get hurt.
How crazy was it for her to see you on Monday Night Raw getting torn apart by Nia Jax then?
She thought it was actually pretty cool. She's like, oh, this is awesome. And she had it on like DVR and everything. She had it recorded.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it was.
But she was super psyched about it.
It was a great opportunity. It definitely looked like it hurt. You did a great job at selling and putting over Nia. It was amazing. But did it really hurt?
Yeah, she definitely kicked my ass. Like she hit me pretty hard. I remember like before I went out, Xavier Wood from New Day was like, "Good luck," and
oh my god!
I just gave him like a look. Like, why did you say it like that?
Yeah.
And he was just like, "Nia stiff," and I was like, "Oh, okay."
No, a lot of wrestlers actually that we talk to also, have that reputation about being stiff. Is that something that in women's wrestling, it's something that you guys are also, in talks about, like, oh, she's pretty stiff. Don't work with her. You have to adjust yourself to a stiff worker.
I come from a different mindset in that Booker will tell you that he is a very snug worker, right?
I like that word,
and
snug.
He gets in there nice and tight. I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
You'll feel it when you're in the ring with Book. But myself and other people that come from that school, we are all the same in that we are very snug. So I've heard people say like, oh yeah, like the reality of wrestling guys, yeah, they're a little stiff.
Oh wow!
But it's not my fault. That's just the way I was trained.
But it's just the same training that, like, when people go to Japan, that like strong style of wrestling, you want to be a part of that.
Booker's always like, hey, it's wrestling. If you get hit in the lip, apologize in the back. That's his mindset.
Now, since you're in the trenches with some of the young talent that's really coming up on the rise, is there any of your colleagues that you feel we should keep an eye on because they're on the come up just like you?
Yes, my girls, and my two girls, the loves of my life. Her name is Roxy. She's 17 years old. She's actually started training when she was 13 years old.
What?
Yeah.
To know you want to be a pro wrestler that early, that's awesome.
She is insanely talented, and I really don't know anybody that works so hard. Like, she spent her whole spring break. She lives in Laredo, which is like a border town closer to Mexico. She lives in Laredo and takes a Greyhound to come to Reality of Wrestling in Houston, which is like 6 hours away.
Wow.
And will come and train with us.
That's amazing.
And she does that all the time. Like,
props.
If she's in town, she will make the effort. So when people try to give me excuses about wrestling, I really can't take them seriously because I'm like, Roxy takes, a Greyhound to get here, right? So I really can't feel bad for you,
Yeah.
And she's 17 years old, and, she does it, and she's amazing. Like, she's going to be a rock star in a few more years. Like, she just works so hard. And my girl, Rachel Rose, she's still newer, but she works really hard as well. I've never seen anybody have like such a presence in the ring so naturally and early in their career.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just kind of like, being mean comes really naturally to you. She's just like, yeah. She's like, yeah, I'm kind of good at that. I'm like, yeah, you are. And it's not like that charisma. Like, it's not something that she had to be taught. Like, she just picked it up really quickly. And in a few more years, when she gets a little bit more crisp in the ring, she's definitely going to be a superstar as well.
That's amazing. We'll definitely keep an eye on some of that great talent from Houston. There's already a lot of big names that are coming out of your school, and you're definitely one of them. It's one of the reasons that we're very honored for you to come into our area and actually showcase some of your talents. Battle Club Pro is going to be on September 28th in Brooklyn, New York. What could we expect when you're coming to New York?
Expect some hard-hitting moves. Expect a little bit of the Japanese style that I kind of picked up a little bit while I was in Japan. Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
How often do you make it to New York?
I've only been to New York one time before, and that was during WrestleMania weekend earlier this year.
Have you seen any of the sites then on your once visit over here?
I only saw Times Square, so I didn't get to see anything like crazy. But I'm just really excited because I'm also half Dominican, and there's like no Dominican restaurants in Texas. It's like Mexican food for the most part.
Okay.
So I'm excited to get some actual Dominican food.
There's
we don't have
so much good Dominican food around here. What's your favorite meal?
It's like mofongo.
I'm going to bring you some mofongo on September 28th.
That would literally make me cry. Pure joy. You have no idea.
I know the best restaurants. I will bring it to you. Don't worry about it. September 28th. Thank you so much for joining us on A Shot of Wrestling. If we wanted to follow you a little bit more, can you let us know where we could do that on social media?
Yeah, my Twitter is @_the Hyan _THEHYAN. Instagram is @the Hyan. Same thing, just without the underscore.
You have been such a pleasure to have on the show. It's been a great conversation. And we still have last call, so stick around a little bit more, okay?
Okay. Hey guys, sure to stay to the end of A Shot of Wrestling for last call.
Well, there you have it. Our interview with Hyan did not disappoint. I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone at Battle Club Pro Wrestling for allowing us the opportunity to interview one of their stars from their upcoming show, Anything You Can Do. Well, we're going to find out on September the 28th who can do it better, because they have an intergender show, male versus female. No. Better yet, athlete versus athlete. Coming to you live from 185 Ellery Street in Brooklyn, New York. It's an afternoon show. Bell time is at 2 p.m. You know your boys at A Shot of Wrestling are going to be there, as we are one of the proud sponsors of Battle Club Pro Wrestling presents Anything You Can Do. I'd like to thank everybody for listening, and if you want to listen to more of the Shot of Wrestling experience, you could check out Michael J. Putty and Mark Schwann as they host their weekly podcast that oversees and overviews and overanalyzes everything in the world of professional wrestling. A Shot of Wrestling podcast can be found on all platforms where you get your podcast. So make sure you grab them a listen and follow us on all forms of social media. For Hyan, Battle Club Pro Wrestling, and the guys and gals and everybody in the family of A Shot of Wrestling, this is Abel the Green Man. Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I need to announce it's last call at the bar.
Oh. All right, everybody, we have made it to the end of the episode. And as always, it is last call. We're still here with Hyan, and it's rapid fire questions. The first thing that comes to your mind is the first thing you should answer. Are you ready?
Yes.
Well, then away we go. What is the one thing you nerd out to?
Legend of Zelda.
Other than wrestling, what is your favorite sport?
Boxing.
What is your go-to snack on the road?
Protein bar.
What fictional character would you like to face in a wrestling match?
SpongeBob.
Who is your hero?
Ooh, Spider-Man.
I thought you were going to say SpongeBob again. I was going to get really excited. What is your favorite fast food chain to get a quick meal?
Whataburger.
What's your favorite karaoke song?
The Humpty Dance by Digital Underground.
Who is your celebrity crush?
Oh, that's hard. I would say right now, Chris Hemsworth.
What is the weirdest thing you've ever seen in wrestling?
Oh, I don't know, but my standard for weird is really high. So what's weird for me
That's
probably
pretty normal.
like
So, what is the most normal thing
Yeah.
you've ever seen in wrestling?
the most normal thing. Normal. I don't know. That's a very hard question. I don't know why this is something. Honestly, the most normal thing I've ever seen in wrestling is just like Russian leg sweep as a finish.
Okay. And finally, if your career ended tomorrow, what would you like to be remembered for?
For always having a positive attitude.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of A Shot of Wrestling. We have Battle Club Pro coming up on September the 28th in Brooklyn, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you.
Hey baby, I hear the bell ringing, hip tosses and body slams. Oh my. And maybe you seem a bit confused, yeah baby, but I got you pinned. Ha 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 ha. But I don't know what to do when I see them with that golden case. They're cashing it in. Authority all in my face. What is a man to do? Good night, everybody.
A pilgrim, covered in cranberry sauce.
Alexa, are you a robot? Alexa, let's play Global Thermonuclear War.
I'd prefer a nice game of chess.
Alexa, is the cake a lie?
The cake is not a lie. It is delicious and moist. You can have some when you finish asking me questions.
Alexa, what happens if you cross the streams?
If you cross the streams, you'll get total protonic reversal.
Alexa, I'll be back.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Alexa, that's no moon.
It's a bad day for Alderaan.